Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Simone here. So today I'm going to be doing a bit of a different video. I'm actually going to be talking about audiobooks. Now, I really like listening to audiobooks, but I have a slightly different way of listening to them than I know a lot of people do. A lot of people I know listen to them on like double speed or 1.5 speed, and they kind of listen while they're doing other things or while they're in the car or whatever. I don't do that. I don't actually have a car, I don't drive, so that's not really something I use for that reason. I hate listening to audiobooks while I'm walking around or while I'm like on trains and stuff, because I kind of feel like I don't really take in what is happening because I'm like focusing on everything around me. So my favourite way of listening to audiobooks, which is probably a little bit strange, is actually to listen to the audiobook while following with the book. Like reading it with the book, the actual physical book. So I'm pretty sure all the audiobooks I've listened to I actually either own or did own the physical copy of, because I just follow along. I like that. I get the atmosphere of an audiobook and I get the enjoyment of an audiobook while still being able to physically read a book. And therefore if I kind of miss something that's said, because I'm half deaf, so sometimes I can miss things that are said, or I don't quite understand the way that something's been said, so I then can use the book to help me with that and to like follow along with it. It kind of in the same vein that whenever I watch TV I always have the subtitles on. In that same way, it's kind of like reading the book alongside is the subtitles to the audiobook, which I know sounds a little bit strange, but that's how I do it. So I have Audible. So I have Audible open on my phone, and I'm going to start by talking about the audiobooks that I've listened to and really liked. Then I'm going to talk about the one I'm currently listening to, and then I'm going to also talk about the ones that I have on my phone ready to listen to whenever I feel like it. So first off is the ones I've already listened to and what I think about them. So the first one I've listened to is Atonement by Ian McEwan, which is narrated by Carol Boyd. I really liked this one. I think I might have mentioned before that when I first read Atonement I wasn't the biggest fan. I also watched the film, didn't love it. Then I listened to the audiobook of Atonement and it totally made sense to me. Now I don't know if it's because when you listen to an audiobook it's slightly slower than normal, because I always listen to it on 1x speed, like I don't speed it up or anything. But maybe because it's being spoken through and it's sort of almost like explained to you, rather than you kind of reading it and thinking I don't completely understand what's happened. But for some reason listening to the audiobook just made it all make sense, and I've since watched the film again and I loved it. If you don't know, Atonement is about a young girl who is kind of jealous of her older sister's romance with the gardener that lives with them in their family, and she accuses him of something which he didn't do. So then he has to, there are lots of consequences, let's put it that way, and she then spends her life essentially trying to atone for it and to get forgiveness. And obviously she just feels really bad. Now she's older, she's kind of grown up a bit and sort of understands it a bit more. But I absolutely loved this. The narrator of this was really good. I feel like she had a lot of characterisation, which was brilliant, and yeah, I really liked this one. Then the next one I listened to was House Rules by Jodi Picoult. Now it says on my one here that it was narrated by uncredited, so I don't know who narrated it. I don't think it actually says. I don't download it. But anyway, this follows a autistic boy who so this is about an autistic boy named Jacob Hunt, who is accused of murdering his tutor, like social skills tutor, and as things go, like his mum starts to think it was him, and he obviously has certain struggles because he has Asperger's. And the thing about Jacob is his kind of obsession and like favourite thing in the world is forensic science. So he a lot of the things that he is now being accused, a lot of things that he's done kind of come across in a very strange way, even though he's actually quite innocent in it. And certain things are innocent. So it's a really good book. I don't know that I would have finished it if I'd have read the book, because I think the book was very long-winded, but because I was listening to the audiobook, I found it to be more kind of a story as opposed to, I think basically if I'd been reading it I would have just got bored. But I think when it's the story it's almost like someone's talking to you, isn't it? So it's like I don't know, I find if it's a book I'm getting bored with, if I listen to the audiobook, I'm more likely to finish it. Then of course I've listened to Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone and Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. They're the only two I've actually listened to at this moment in time, but I do obviously, I think I own, this is going on to the next section, but let me just have a look through. I own Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, and Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. So I think, if I've worked that out, the only one I don't have is the Deathly Hallows. Yeah, that's right, isn't it? Yeah. So I obviously am going to get that. I haven't had a credit yet, so my credit comes on the 9th of the month, so maybe I'll get that then. But like I said, I've listened to the first two. I really like, obviously, Harry Potter. I love Harry Potter. It's like my favourite thing ever. I listened to the audiobooks, and to be honest, when I listened to the first one, Philosopher's Stone, I was a little bit disappointed. Now, Stephen Fry is the narrator, and obviously, who doesn't love Stephen Fry? But some of the accents he did and some of the things he said did irritate me a little bit. Like his depiction of Hermione's voice is one of the most annoying things I think I've heard. Now, to be honest, I've listened to the second one since then, and actually he's a lot better in the second one. I think the first one he's just very whiny and very high-pitched, and I struggled with that because that's really annoying. The second one was much better. The only other thing I struggle with is that he says Malfoy's name as Malfoy, which doesn't sound that different when I say it now, but when I listen to it, it really gets my back up. Like, I'm like, it's Malfoy, not Malfoy. Like, there is no oi at the end of it. But again, I like the narration. I think Stephen Fry's amazing, and I'm excited to carry on with the series. Also, it's a really nice new medium to listen to the books, I mean, I'm all for rereading Harry Potter. Then I'm looking at my phone, I'm sorry, but it's because I don't know off the top of my head all these people. So then I read Little Black Lies by Sharon Bolton, narrated by Lucy Price-Lewis, Kenny Blythe and Antonia Beamish. Now, I actually prefer it when audiobooks that are separate, so if they are written in different perspectives. I prefer it when they're read by different people. I'm not the biggest fan of kind of all the perspectives being read by the same person just in a different voice, because I find that a little bit annoying. Anyway, this one is from 3 perspectives. So you have the main character, Catelyn, and then you have Rachel and Callum, who are, they all live in this little small island community, and one of them, Catelyn, her 2 boys were killed by the car they were in going off the end of a cliff. Now, the car they were in belonged to Rachel, who used to be Catelyn's best friend, and obviously they're not talking anymore. So like I said, that's 2 perspectives. Then you have the perspective of Callum, who is a army veteran who kind of has these flashbacks, and he is also Catelyn's on-off boyfriend. Again, I love thrillers anyway, and To Be Read one was just really, really lovely. Like, I think I would definitely choose to listen to more thrillers on audiobook in the future, because I did really like it. I think that this one, like I said, because it was read in 3 completely different perspectives, I did like that. The only thing I didn't like so much is, so the perspective was written from them, and so they read it, but then they also read what the others said. So like, for example, Callum is very Irish, so when in Catelyn's section she had to talk about something that Callum said, she then would have to do the Irish accent, which sometimes was very bad. On and off, I would say. But no, I really liked this. I do think it was great. The book itself is fantastic. I would definitely recommend. And I really liked the audio format for this one, just because I think it worked for this book specifically. The next one I have listened to, I've definitely talked about before, and that is Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn by Julia Whelan and Kirby Hayborn. Now, this is quite a long audiobook, but again, this is 2 different perspectives, and 2 different people say those perspectives. So this follows Nick Dunn and Amy Dunn, who are, most of you probably know about this, but they are basically husband and wife celebrating their 5th wedding anniversary when Amy goes missing. So this starts off with Nick's perspective and also Diary Amy. So you have Amy's diary entries from previous to that, so obviously that's how the 2 perspectives come in. It's really good. It's very twisted. Again, it's a thriller, which I love, and again I love the fact that it was two different audio speakers, two different narrators, that's the word, saying it. I think that really worked, and yeah, I would definitely recommend. I actually think, although I love Gone Girl reading it, I actually really liked the audiobook as well, so I think either way would be a brilliant way of reading it. If you don't enjoy reading so much, I would say definitely give the audiobook a go, because it's very good and it gets all the stuff in there, and also it really builds up the atmosphere, I think. So that is all the audiobooks I've actually listened to. The next one I'm going to talk about is actually the one I'm currently reading, and I only have 2 hours left of it, and it was like a 44-hour audiobook, and you'll understand why when I tell you what it is. It is A Game of Thrones by George R.R. Martin, and it's and it's narrated by a man named Roy Dotrice, I think is his name, yeah. Now, I'm going to be honest, when I first started listening to this, I decided to listen to the audiobook because I tried reading the book myself and I was lost. If you don't know what Game of Thrones is, it's like a massively high fantasy series. It's very, very long. It's like 750 pages or something. And honestly, it's just a bit much for me. Like, I don't really I don't read fantasy books very often. But I did find that listening to it gives you the atmosphere of like a TV show. And so it really helps. I will say Roy Dotrice is amazing. Like, I started off listening to this thinking I didn't really like his style of narration, because he has a very gruff voice, and I struggled with that a little bit to start with, but actually it really suits Game of Thrones. And I do think as well, he must have, like, how many characters he's come up with different names, like different accents and different like voices for. There must be like hundreds of them in this book. And I definitely think Tyrion is my favourite. I think he's Welsh in this, like the slight Welsh accent. I'm not 100% sure, I'm really bad at accents. But yeah, that's what kind of came across to me, and I thought it was great. And like I said, I'm 2 hours away from the end, so I cannot wait. So I'm just going to go through quite quickly the books that I have to read, and I kind of will go into a little bit of detail, but not too much, because I mean this video is probably already like 15 minutes long, so I feel like it's going to be even longer by the time I finish this. But anyway, I like to talk about audiobooks. So the next one I have is Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom Briggs, narrated by Jessie Bernstein. I'm really excited to read this book. This follows a school for gifted children, I think, who have like special powers. I'm not 100% sure, I don't know too much about it, but I've heard really good things about this. Jessie the reader, whose channel I link below, like is in love with the series, yeah, so I've got the first one. I actually own the book. I have no idea where it is, but again, I like listening alongside, so I'm really looking forward to reading this one. I feel like it'll be very good. Then I have Girl Online on Tour by Zoe Sugg, narrated by Hannah Toynton. Now, Hannah Toynton was one of my favourite actresses. I think she was in like loads of stuff, like Biker Grove, I think, I watched when I was little. So I really liked her, and I think that her narrating this will be really good. Zoe Sugg is also one of my favourite YouTubers, who I'll link below. I'm sure you don't need me to, but I will. And yeah, so I really enjoy her writing. I've read the first one. It's up here, Girl Online, and then Girl Online on Tour is the second one, which I have actually read before, but I've not listened to the audiobook before, which I really want to do. I'm really excited, like I said, to see how Hannah Toynton kind of puts it together, because I really like her in general, so I feel like this will be a good combination. And this follows a young girl named Penny and her relationship with a boy named Noah, and kind of her like troubles with anxiety, and it really rings a bell with me, and I really feel like I relate to it, so definitely like that one. Then I have The Selection by Kira Cass, narrated by Amy Rubinate. This is quite a short one actually, it's only 8 hours long, which I feel like I could do really quickly. But the Selection series is another one I own the entire series of, but for some reason I just haven't got around to reading it. I think it's because I've heard some really mixed things. A lot of people say it's kind of like trashy, like it's not the most like well written series, but I have also heard it's like a mixture of The Bachelorette or The Bachelor and like Gossip Girl, which is kind of up my street. I feel like it's going to be one of those things that's kind of feel good, but it's just not, it's not like groundbreaking, but it's kind of fun. But I'm definitely looking forward to listening to that one because I feel like if I have an audiobook it will make me listen to it before I get around to actually reading it myself. Then I have Eyre of Fire, which I think is the third book in the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J Maas, narrated by Elizabeth Evans. Now this is weird. It's kind of weird that I picked this one because I haven't actually read Throne of Glass or Crown of Midnight yet, which are the two that come before that. But the reason I got the third one is because it was on Audible and it was the first one I found, really. Also though, I sometimes feel like in a series, once I get I've read the first couple, say, and then I get to the next one and I'm like, oh, I just can't make myself do it. I kind of just get a bit bored, or I just feel like reading other things. But I feel like if it's an audiobook, it's a different format, and so it might make me read a series quicker if I actually get the next one in in Audible. In audiobook as opposed to just reading it. Then I have actually a few classics because I don't want to read them myself because they're like monsters, and so I've decided to listen to them instead. So I have The Idiot by Fyodor Dostoevsky, narrated by Robert Whitfield. I know nothing about this other than it's a classic. I'm sure I've put the picture up here somewhere. I know nothing about this, decided I might listen to it on audio instead of reading it. And then the same for the Homer box set I got, which was the Iliad and the Odyssey by Homer, narrated by Anthony Heald. Now this is a 25-hour one, but it is 2 books in one, so I probably wouldn't listen to them back to back. Again, I don't know too much about them. I know they're classics and everyone who's read them loves them. Again, I struggle sometimes reading classics. I find them to be kind of massive and just a task. But I feel like I might like this. I don't know. We'll find out. Then I have Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo, which I have here because I was filming another video and it was already next to me. And I love this. I'm not going to go into this again because I don't know how many times I've talked about this book. I will tell you very briefly. It's about 6 outcasts performing the impossible heist. I love this book and I really just want to keep rereading it, but I feel like I'm not allowed to reread it unless I reread it in a different format, so audiobook is where it's at. Then I have Only Time Will Tell by Jeffrey Archer. This is another author. Also, this was narrated by Roger Allam. And who else? Narrated by Roger Allam and Amelia Fox. Now, I feel like I know Amelia Fox. I've heard of her before. This is a historical fiction novel, I believe. I don't know too much about Jeffrey Archer, but I've heard about his writing before. I've heard it's great. Again, it's a book that I just haven't picked up myself. So I decided what I would do is listen to it on audio. Then I have Little Women by Louisa May Alcott, narrated by Andrea Ems. Now, I love Little Women. I read this as a child, and I recently bought the book again because I didn't actually have a copy of it. And again, I just love it and I want to savour it. And it's a 17-hour audiobook, so I feel like that would just give me just enough time to sort of really get into it. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading that on audio as well. Then I have Carve the Mark by Veronica Roth, narrated by Austin Butler and Emily Rankin. I think this is a dual perspective one again, so it's 2 different people doing the audio for 2 different characters. I've heard good and bad things about this. I've heard that it's very bad representation. I want to find that out for myself though. I like Divergent by Veronica Roth. I haven't actually finished that, but the series, but I have read the first one, which I did like, and so I've decided to give it a go. Also, I feel like it's that type of book that I think is good as an audiobook because it just gets you immersed into the atmosphere, and again, I really like dual perspectives, so that's me. Then I have a 71-hour audiobook, which is massive, and it's a Stephen Fry one, and it is the Sherlock Holmes, the definitive collection, so it's all of Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes stories. So I mean, this is not one I'm going to read all in one go, I'm going to split it up obviously, but yeah, I'm very excited. I love Sherlock Holmes. I think Hound of the Baskervilles was one of my favourite books as a teenager, so I'm very much looking forward to reading the other ones. I also quite like the TV show, so I feel like I should read the books, because you know, when you shouldn't really watch films and TV shows without reading the original text. So yeah, I'm going to read that. Like I said, it's massive, 71 hours, so I'm definitely not reading it all in one go. Then I have Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman, narrated by the author himself. I really like it when authors narrate their own audiobooks, just because I feel like it really adds to something, it gives you something extra. It makes you know, if it's from the author who wrote it and they're speaking it, like it's something very special to me. I've never actually read a Neil Gaiman book, I don't think. Obviously the Norse Mythology one is Neil Gaiman, so I mean, it's a new author to me, one I've heard so many good things about, and yeah, it's something I'm very excited about and I can't wait to read. Then I have my next one that I've decided to read after I've read Game of Thrones, and that is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, narrated by Rosamund Pike, who actually was was Amy in Gone Girl, the film, which I really enjoyed. I also think that Rosamund Pike has one of the best voices ever, so I can't wait to see how she does Pride and Prejudice. Also, Pride and Prejudice is another classic. I've read this before. I have it up here somewhere. Here it is. And I really wanted to reread it, but something is stopping me from physically reading it. I think I'm just I'm a bit intimidated by it. But I feel like if I listen to the audiobook, somebody gets to read it to me, and maybe it'll help me to just fully immerse myself into it. So yeah, very excited about that one. Then I have a 44-hour audiobook, which is just one book. This is not like a collection of stories. This is It by Stephen King. I actually was inspired to pick up this one by Zoe from Read by Zoe, whose channel I'll link below, but she read the entire book of It in one day. She read it on her 24 hours of, was it called 24 hours of Zoe? 24 hours? Of Zoe Readathon? I can't remember what it is. Anyway, I'll link it below, but it was her Halloween edition one that she did. I'll link her video below where she read all of it. But she read it in like 24 hours, which is amazing. Obviously she had this on at very fast speed, which I could not do and I will not do, but yeah. I love Stephen King. I am basically trying to work my way through his works. I'm doing well with it so far. I think I've read 6 this year. And I only really started trying to read them properly in like June or July time, so I feel like I'm actually getting somewhere. But It obviously is one of the big ones. The film's out. I'm not going to watch it until I've read the book, and I feel like this will help me with the atmosphere and the kind of creepiness of Pennywise the Clown. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one. Then I have The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, narrated by Joanna David. Now, The Handmaid's Tale is one of those ones I've heard about a lot since I was a kid, and when I was doing my A-levels, it was one of the required reading, but of the required reading we had to read like 5 of them, say, and this was not one I chose because at the time it just wasn't one that jumped out to me, and I really wish I'd read it now. I've heard amazing things. I know that the TV series was recently out and everybody seemed to love that, so yeah, I've also just bought a copy of the book, so I feel like this is one I'm going to really like as well, and I can't wait. Then I have another one of my favourite classics, and that is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte, narrated by Thandie Newton, who is one of my favourite actresses. I think she's amazing. I love her. Now, you all know how much I love Jane Eyre. I'm pretty sure I've talked about this ridiculous amounts of times. I have like a really battered old copy which I annotated when I was at school, and I'm not ever going to get rid of because it's amazing. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to just listening to it and listening to somebody else's take on it, basically, because obviously this is from another perspective and someone else reading it, but I just can't wait to hear all about it. The next one I have is Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare, narrated by Natalie Moore. Sorry, no it's not. Narrated by Morena Baccarin. This is part of the Shadowhunter world. I mean, I got this one because I know that I will want to listen to it on audio. However, I haven't read, like, there are so many more books I have to read in the series. I have to finish the Mortal Instruments series, which, talking about that, I actually got City of Ashes on audio as well. That's the next one I was going to talk about, but that is the second book in the Mortal Instruments series, which is, it goes City of Bones, City of Ashes, City of Glass, which I've read, the first 3. But I got the second one because sometimes I like to kind of just remind myself of what's happened, and that's probably the one I don't remember the most. Like, I remember them, but because it's such a long time, I like leave ages between reading them, I kind of forgot a little bit, so I wanted to get the audiobook so I could remind myself. I also got to read the Infernal Devices series, and then I can read it, but I will be doing that hopefully next year. I would love to finish them, so Lady Midnight will be an audiobook that I will listen to. Then I have The Fault in Our Stars by John Green, narrated by Kate Rudd, who, I don't know Kate Rudd actually, but I've heard good things about her audio of The Fault in Our Stars. I love The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. I know that a new book of John Green's has just come out, Turtles All the Way Down, and I got into the John Green reading again, like the vibes, I guess. I've actually just requested from my library An Abundance of Catherine's, because I haven't read that one yet. And so I thought I'd get the audiobook of The Fault in Our Stars so I can listen to that one again too. And that is all the audiobooks that I actually own. And you know, on the 9th of this month I will get another one. I do have a very low ratio of reading them to getting new ones. Like, I get new ones all the time. Like, I get one a month, and I probably listen to, well, it depends on, to be honest, the reason why I haven't like listened to it like a lot recently is because I have been listening to the Game of Thrones one, which is 44 hours long. But I feel like reading Pride and Prejudice is only like 12 hours maybe, and then I might listen to some sort of shorter ones so I can kind of feel like I'm actually getting somewhere with them. Let me know in the comments below if you'd like me to do like an audiobooks wrap up once I listened to say like 5 of them, and then talk about them on this channel, which I'd love to do. And let me know what audiobooks you like, because I always like to know which ones are good ones to read. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I shall see you in my next video. Bye guys!